I have, sir.
My understanding of the pension, the teacher pension law that's just changed, is that the primary thing is it closes that plan to new hires. Isn't that correct?
So what it would do is this, it would do two things, okay? So it would close off the current plan or the current system to new hires, okay? Now, this was a debate that we went back and forth with the governor on for several months. And if you remember, if you were following this, it got pretty contentious because Senator Meekhoff and I, we wanted to tackle this issue, and the governor, he wasn't quite there yet, wouldn't get on board. So what we did is, and you know, I'm not giving you behind the scenes information I'm not allowed to share. I mean, this was out in the media. Essentially what we did is we said to him, we said, well, Governor, with all due respect, this is a big issue. This is something we have to address. We've got to get it taken care of. So as such, as we're doing budget negotiations, we're basically kicking you out of the room. If you're not going, but I'll tell you what it did. But we basically said, Governor, if you're not going to come to the table on this, then we are going to put together the budget without you. Within a few weeks, that actually got him to the table to negotiate on this particular issue. Okay. So what the ultimate compromise legislation would do, it shuts off the current system that we have. Okay. So we stop that hole digging. We stop that bleeding. Then what would happen is for new hires going forward, new teachers that hire.
Okay, but I just, because you got time constraints, my question is, that alone, cutting the plan off to new hires, will not keep that liability from growing substantially in the future, because the benefits for the current teachers will continue to accumulate, and at some point those discount rates have to come into reality. Yes, it will close it off, but that's a 30 to 50 year time frame. Are you willing to take the next step, which is really the important one, which is to terminate the plan? Now, it doesn't take away any benefits that have been accrued, but kill the plan and put everybody in for their future benefits into a 401k plan. For instance, a teacher that's halfway through their career, they get half of a pension when they retire, and they get half into 401k. That will bring that liability down fast. Otherwise, it's still a 50, 60-year problem.
Yeah, I would say two things. One, I believe there may be some state constitutional concerns. Once those teachers are vested, it's...
I'm not suggesting they take away the vested, but a 23-year-old teacher that has 1 year in the plan does not have the right to stay in a plan until they're 62. They're not entitled to 40 years. The state law just says you can't take away their 1 year vested benefit. Or a teacher that's been there 20 years, that's got 20 years to go, you can't take away their 20 years vested benefit, but it doesn't give them a guarantee to 20 more years of vested benefits. And that's the piece that will kill the financing. And I'm saying, you've done a great job of taking it on, but the real stuff is phase 2.
Yeah. I will tell you, and again, I don't want to give you false hope on this. Given the fact that we just got this legislation done, I don't know that I don't know that we are going to be able to go the next step that you're talking about. Okay, so what we need to start doing now is paying down on that debt. And I will tell you this: we drew our line in the sand with the budget this year, and after we got this legislation passed, we also said, Governor, we're going to put an additional $200 million into paying towards that pension fund. Now, it's a $30 billion debt. It's not going to be paid overnight, okay? But at the end of the day, you know, we had to stop putting people into the system that was costing us all this gobs of money. So now going into, with the new hires going forward, they will either be in a 401k or they will be in a hybrid system where there is much more responsibility on them to pay towards their retirement. Yes, ma'am. Let's go after lunch. I'll go to you, Sir X. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Given the centrality of the Republican Party, the Republican Party platform, of our reverence for the, if you will, the sanctity and the inviolability of the United States Constitution, which is the guide star of our freedoms and our liberties and our American exceptionalism, and given that I personally can't think of anything more critically important than that foundational principle for our American safety and security and sovereignty, I'd like to know what is going to be the movement of the bill that is now in the House. I think it's in Representative Kesto's committee, that affirms the primacy of the United States Constitution and protects it against any competing or conflicting foreign laws that would undermine.
Yep, absolutely. This is something that I support 100%. My hope is that we get to a place where we can get that out of the committee and get it done.
What's holding it back?
Last I spoke with Representative Kesto, and I actually spoke to the bill sponsor as well as some of the outside groups that's really pushing this. Evidently, and I apologize, the bill as it sits right now, I've not sat down, I've not read it line by line, okay? But my understanding is that there were some issues when it was introduced that could have some constitutional concerns, okay? So what they're doing is they're working out those concerns to ensure that once they get it out of committee, once we vote it out of the floor, and if it becomes law, it's not going to be struck down by some federal judge. I've spoken to Representative Kesto about this. I've spoken to the bill sponsor, Representative Hoytinga, and even she has admitted that there are some concerns that we have to address in the bill because of the way it was drafted before we can move forward. And my understanding is they're currently working on those concerns.
So they're going to be amending then the legislation to make it bulletproof? Is that what you're saying?
What they told me is that there were some drafting issues with the way it was drafted and that there could be some constitutional concerns. So they're ironing those out to ensure that once we pass it, it will stand constitutional muster. I don't know specifically what, I mean, I
have a question as to the
Yes.
time because I'm not certain of this. So wouldn't they first want to amend it before they bring it out of committee to the floor for vote? Would they want to ensure that it would pass constitutional muster?
No, that's the point that I'm making is they are working on drafting and putting together those amendments
Right.
to ensure that once they run in committee, they can adopt those commitments those amendments so that when it gets to the floor, it's ready.
And will that be something that we'll see once you resume from recess?
I hope.
That'll be a
Yes,
priority?
I do. Yes, I hope it will.
What's the number of that bill?
This is something
I
I've
don't know
been.
I don't know the number.
Do you know?
I don't know the number either. I don't. I do
Name?
know. I know the bill you're talking about because I've had some conversations with some folks.
The name of it.
And again, as I said, even the bill sponsor has admitted they are currently doing work on this bill because there are some concerns and issues with it they've got to address before it gets voted on.
Whatever you can do, Speaker, to expedite this, I urge you to do so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I second that.
Yeah. Tom Llewellyn, we were talking to your office regarding the Phoenix Convention coming up in September.
Okay,
One of the things that I'm most concerned with is part of your initial introduction to Snyder's budget back in February, spoken to all the other issues except the major cuts in spending, which was another one of the highlighted priorities in that statement that you made in February. We've lost generations in this state to lack of opportunity and the severe downturns that are the first to happen and the last to come back. In order to really turn this state around, minor snipping along the edges isn't going to cut it anymore. We need to have a goal, a real aspiration of making Michigan Texas of the North, if for lack of another vistage. The option of being able to go to part-time legislatures and to make serious cuts in the budget are really at the heart of what that's going to be required. And I'm asking for your input on how you've seen this budget go together and whether you're happy with the cuts that have been made.
was it a perfect budget? Absolutely not. Could we have gone further, or would I have liked to have seen us gone further? Absolutely, but at the end of the day, I believe this was the most conservative budget we were going to be able to put together that was going to have 55 votes in the House, 20 votes in the Senate, and a governor's signature. At the end of the day, we in this state, we are constitutionally required to do one thing as a legislature, and that is to pass a budget by September 30th. And, that we ensured that we did that. Now, all that to say, when you look at some of the spending that's in this budget that actually goes towards the growth, if you will, we paid, as I mentioned, we paid an additional over $200 million in pension debt on our MIPSR's pension debt. We put $160 million into our rainy day fund. Okay, that's $350 million. Okay, with your own individual household income, if you're paying down debt or you're putting money into your savings, you would never consider that spending. in regards to the state budget, that is considered spending, okay? So all that to say, could we do better? Absolutely. Will we continue to fight to do better? Absolutely. But some of these big expenditures, again, $200 million towards pension debt, an additional $150 million into savings, that all goes onto the ledger as actual spending. So
Even aside from that, the departments themselves are just growing exponentially.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way
Yeah.
to stabilize that and reduce those budgets.
I look at a Shane Hernandez, what he did with our transportation budget. I think it's the third or fourth largest budget, subcommittee budget that we have in the House. He was one, and I'd have to go back and look, but I think he had cut, it was either 80 or 90 positions within the Department of Transportation to ensure that that money for those salaries would go directly into concrete. I mean, that was one thing in particular that we were able to get accomplished this year. Again, could we continue to improve? Absolutely, but at the end of the day, we've got to ensure that it's a budget where we can get 55 votes in the House, 20 votes in the Senate, and ultimately a governor's signature to get it done.
And the part-time legislature issue, you're supporting that?
I support a part-time legislature. I support the concept, whatever you want to call it. It's difficult for me to say that I support this current proposal because there's no longer a proposal. They're drafting new language. They're going to submit it to the Board of Canvassers. So I can't go out on a limb and say that I'm going to support something that hasn't been introduced yet. But in terms of a part-time legislature, absolutely, I would support it.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Let's go over here, sir.
Yeah, you just raised my ire with this Department of Transportation under control. Well, I beg to disagree with you. There's so many instances of where they're doing things wrong, and your last word was the one that really just got me. Put it into concrete. Why are we using concrete in this state?
Well, listen,
No, I want to know.
yeah, I was using that as a figure of speech.
I
Whether
know
it's
you were.
concrete, asphalt,
I know you
whatever,
were.
Yeah.
But the State Department of Transportation, every road they build is concrete. Every 5 years, the joints break up. Every 10 years, the whole road is gone. You go to Ohio, you cross the border. I took a trip to Washington, D.C., Freedom Rally. I could tell when we were in Michigan, and immediately when we were in Ohio, I slept.
Well, let me tell you what I do believe is the answer to that. But all that to say, my point was, instead of putting the money into some other bureaucrat sitting in Lansing that is going to tell people how to do things, the money ought to go directly towards the roads. But all that to say, I believe, and again, this is a matter of, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. We're not going to be able to completely solve this issue overnight. But I will tell you this. I remember talking to a road builder, it was a few years ago. He had just, well, I didn't know it at the time. There was a construction project up in my district. It was on a state highway, and they had completely resurfaced it. And within 5 years, it was so bad that we've got truckers that can't even go over it because they think they're going to damage their trucks. And I remember saying to this guy, I said, we've got to do something to hold these builders accountable. I said, why in the world are we paying to surface a road, and 5 years later it's so torn up you can no longer ride on it? He looked at me and he kind of chuckled and he goes, my company did that road. And I said, okay. I said, well then please explain to me what in the world went wrong. And he said, you want to know? And I said, yes. He said, MDOT engineering. And I goes, okay, explain this. Now I was a freshman legislator. I'd just been there a couple weeks. I didn't understand how all this worked. He said, Tom, he said, the issue we have is this. He said, I went and I bid on that project, and I can't remember what the project cost or how much he had bid. But he said, we had bid, but we told them, the way that you want us to do this is completely incorrect. It's going to break up. It's going to be a disaster. And he said, you've got to do it this way. And they basically said, no, we're the engineers. This is how you're going to build it. So you got one of two options. You can either go off and not take the project, and we'll find somebody else to keep their folks employed. They'll come in and they'll do it exactly the way that we tell them to. He said, so at that point I had one of two options: keep my guys employed by doing a project that I knew was done wrong, or telling them that I'm going to walk and we lose the job. He said, what option do you think I took? So at the end of the day, I believe the best way we're going to be able to solve this issue in terms of these roads that we're fixing and they're being torn up within a few years is to basically contract this out and have the contractor be responsible for everything. The engineering, the building, what have you, but also find a way to get them to insure the project. Find out as part of the bidding process, how long is this supposed to last? 10, 15, 20 years, and have clawback provisions in there. And if the road starts breaking up after a few years, you can go back and you can force them to get that money back, because right now, we've got a situation, it's very difficult to claw back money from a builder when the builder knows they were doing it incorrectly because they had to use engineers that were not theirs.
The department is incompetent, okay? That's the bottom line. And another example of that is this interchange at Square Lake and 75.
Okay,
Totally unnecessary.
okay.
Totally unnecessary, and it's gonna have traffic jams for the next 5 years. Unbelievable. And you voted them budget?
I did not sit down and design that ramp. Okay, I did not say this is, I mean, I'm just, I'm gonna be frank.
Somebody
okay?
under your
I did not,
responsibility did.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, yes, we passed a budget. No, I didn't sit in the room with MDOT and say, this is where we're gonna spend every dollar. I didn't, okay?
Get them under control.
Let me go over here. Yeah.
Debbie Kubacker.
Do you remember I came to your house with Tom Tancredo about?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
That was a long time ago.
yes, it was.
I think everybody here wants to get rid of Common Core. Will you
Yep.
raise your
Yeah,
hand?
yeah.
Good.
Yes?
Not rebrand it either.
And I
No.
know that you do too, but I presume you want to repeal and replace Common Core.
Absolutely.
Okay, how are you going to get that passed? Now that we have the budgets done,
Yep.
we need to pass that because our schools are creating little Democrats every day.
Yep, big
And
difference.
it is to me, and little anti-gun people and little, all that. So we need to start out with maybe giving schools back a little bit of freedom. And so how are you, as the omnipotent speaker,
Well,
trying to get this one guy in this committee that we are told is holding it up, Mr. Goldfeld? And then how are we gonna get this to the floor?
Yep. So let me say this. There may be some folks that think I'm this omnipotent leader.
Well, the previous
It's right. No,
were.
but what's that?
Previous speakers were, so we're kind of
Well,
used to that.
I don't know that Speaker Bolger nor Speaker Cotter were either. If they were, there would have been some other issues we would have tackled as well. So all that to say, this is an issue for me. Okay, I am dear friends with Tom McMillan, and Tom McMillan can tell you this. He was the one when I came in my freshman term that educated me on the dangers of Common Core, because at first when I came in, I'm like, what is this? I don't know a lot about it. And I will tell you, I was one of 2 members of the leadership team that actually voted against the resolution to fund Common Core. I took a lot of heat for that. I took a lot of heat for that. Yep. So.
When we need your
Yep.
attention now.
So, and
Yes.
absolutely, you've got it. What I would say is this, okay? My understanding, and I have not spoken to members of the committee yet in terms of exactly where they are, but my understanding is that we are 2 votes short on the committee. Okay, maybe it's 1, but I was
We're
told 2.
told one.
Okay, yeah, and it might be 1, but I was told 2, okay? I do know that some folks, and I just got an email with some amendments probably 3 or 4 days ago, and because I've been so tied up on some of these other issues that we've been working on the last 3 days, I have not
Right,
had time
yes.
to sit down and open
The
those amendments. But at the end
amendments
of the
were
day,
sent.
the process is we're gonna have to work with these members on their concerns in terms of amendments to find a way to get this done and get it out. At the end of the day, that's what it's gonna be.
But can I have your commitment that many people want amendments that are, that nullify the bill? And we can't have that. We would rather not fool the parents that that they have won than have a bill that's so watered down what happened in all the other states. Every other state, you think that Stop Common Core did not stop it, they renamed it. And that is why all the things like the Massachusetts standards that are in the bill to go to those standards, they cannot be changed, or the test, because all they will do in the Michigan Department of Ed, filled with progressives, will just rename Common Core. So I'm telling you, we cannot have that kind of an amendment to this bill. We
Okay.
can't.
Yeah.
And that's what many people, they do not understand, why are we putting Massachusetts in there? And the reason is because if we don't airtight what we're gonna get the same thing.
Okay.
And
And
I think everyone here understands.
yeah, so let me do a follow-up, okay? So let me ask you this. And yes, I'm committed to working whatever we gotta do because this is something I wanna get done. I mean, I was very clear. I would not, there's no way I would have approached Representative Glenn, had him introduce this, and ensured that it started to get hearings in the competitiveness committee if I wasn't serious about wanting to get this thing done, okay? So all that to say, my question would be, and I'm willing to work with these members on these amendments, I'm willing to work with you guys on these amendments, but at the end of the day, if we can't get the bill to a place that can get the votes we need out of committee, at that point, what would you want us to do with the bill?
Well, I don't know, the only person I know that is opposing this is Representative Volko, who's using the excuse that we're replacing, like Obamacare, repeal and replace, we're replacing our standards with Massachusetts standards.
Okay.
I don't know how that man, I can come to a compromise by removing that one half of the bill. That's not a compromise to me. He needs to have you tell him that Massachusetts standards are the best standards in the country. And that pre-Common Core, that they are the best. You need to tell him this, because his objection is half the bill, and we can't change that.
Okay.
Why is he so against it?
Doug's got a question.
Money?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being
Yes.
here today.
It's the boss.
Not so much a question, just a comment on two things. One, there was a road in the city of Madison Heights that was laid back in the 50s. It's just now starting to fall apart in just certain areas
I'm sorry, this is where again?
in Madison Heights.
Okay.
And I think it's the aggregate that's being put into the cement that's causing these roads to destroy themselves very fastly. I-696 between DeQuinder and I-94 was torn apart and rebuilt about 3 or 4 years ago. It's falling apart, I guess. Why? We're chasing good money after bad. It's my only comments I have.
Well, that's why I was saying, I believe we could get to a system whereby the contractors could actually privatize the engineering as well. It'd be much easier to hold them accountable if
They
these
should be
roads
made to
began
have a part of the contract that they provide to the state that they guarantee their work. for
No,
so many years.
that's what I'm saying in terms of the guarantees, but it would be much easier to enforce those guarantees and hold them accountable if they were actually responsible for the entire project.
You
Right
can't
now, they're only
guarantee a
responsible
sloppy
for.
design.
Right, and that's the point that I'm making. It's very difficult to go to a contractor and say, we're gonna hold you accountable when you didn't even get to design or engineer the project. That's the point I'm making. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Shelley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Deb, you're absolutely correct. I have 2 granddaughters, one in a charter school in Massachusetts, one in a plain old public school. Even charter schools flourish there. Okay, so go figure. I want to talk about one thing and promote Oakland County.
Okay.
In 1996, we had a jail diversion task force. We still have it. We trained every single cop, police officer, sheriff's deputy in this county. Everyone in every jurisdiction. We have 26 policing organizations plus the sheriff on mental illness. And we tell them what to expect. So we have a place that has 10 beds in it. Okay, it's right near the sheriff's department on our campus. You need to take a look.
Okay.
And we find somebody who we feel is mentally ill. The police officers are trained. They take them directly there. They don't go to jail. And they can be evaluated if they need bed care. They can be kept overnight. They're evaluated there. It works. So
Okay.
if you want to look at something that's really special, Mr. Speaker, take a look at Oakland County's Jail Diversion Task Force. Mike Bouchard is head of our jail. He works hand in glove with mental health and with public health on this. So it works here, and as you know, he's a former state senator.
Absolutely, yeah, he's great. Shelley, have you spoken to Clint Kesto about this? And I'll explain why in just a moment. Have you spoken to him yet about that?
No.
Does he know about this? this?
I don't think so, but you talk,
Okay.
I know Clint.
Okay, because the reason I say that is he's actually going to be the co-chair of this task force.
Okay,
So, certainly make certain he knows about that, because again, we want to make this as
my
comprehensive
husband
as we
chaired the
can.
state mental health board for 2 years. so
Okay.
He knows who we are, maybe.
Okay.
That was one thing. The second thing is, there are many ways to skin a cat.
Okay,
And I'm just gonna make a suggestion as an old state legislator. We all want tax cuts, we get it, okay? All of us would like to have our income tax cut as promised. No, I wasn't in the legislature when that promise was made. But yes, I worked under Grano, and it was terrible. So, that being said, okay, it's better under the current government, believe me,
oh yeah,
much better. You could easily have your approach to build into the budget a tax cut. Do you understand what I'm talking, you know what I'm talking about? So that your tax cut is built into the budget and it's automatic. There isn't anybody who's gonna go against that budget if you usually get 100% vote. Do you understand what I'm talking? Do the tax cut in the budget and then give it back. You're cutting the budget to give a tax cut. I'm an old pros person, I know how it works. Okay? That's what I would do. Next time you put a budget out there, next time you negotiate with the governor or with anyone else, just build it into the budget.
okay.
It'll work, honestly. No one will notice it's there.
Well, I would,
Transparency.
I will tell you,
Government.
I would beg to differ with the governor, because he was not willing to move one iota on this issue.
Of course.
Yeah, no. So,
You still have another year.
I know I've not gone to Dennis yet, so, and then I'll go over here. Yes.
Okay, so I've got a two-part, one little state or local, an immediate thing, and one is a more general question. So, Tom, the vote that came up today, it was very disappointing. You're the speaker. Is it in the speaker's purview to not bring something like this corporate welfare thing up today? Was that something you might have done, is to say, I'm not going to bring this to a vote, and then they didn't have the opportunity to put it through, or, I'm not sure how the process works.
No, that's okay. No, and I would have, as speaker, I would have had the authority to do that if that's what I wanted to do. But all that to say, I was elected Speaker of the House. I was not elected to be obstructionist of the House. And when I've got a supermajority of my caucus that supports a particular piece of legislation, and they want it to go up for a vote, and they feel that's best for their district, this was an issue that I felt it was, I needed to give them their vote. Again, did I like the legislation? Absolutely not. My caucus knew where I was going to be, but a supermajority is pretty compelling. And that's a supermajority of my caucus wanted this to pass.
Okay, so a supermajority of the Republican state legislators wanted this corporate
Yeah.
welfare.
It may have been just slightly less than that. It was 63 or 64% of the vote. Do the math. It was 41 or 42 members out of 63.
Okay, well, that is very disappointing. I guess that's my second question. The second part of my question, then, in a more general thing, and you partly answered it here already. But and when Lena was here, we talked about the Constitution and what's delegated to the federal government, which is very little actually, and it's only supposed to apply to the feds, so it doesn't apply to the states or to the municipalities. But there are all these things that the feds do that they're not supposed to be doing, and there's a movement around the country, and Michigan's done this a couple of times, to nullify unconstitutional federal law, which Madison and Jefferson, they all said that's what you're supposed to be doing. We've done it a couple of times. Do you see I'll just say within the Republican caucus, there have been a couple of times they've done it. Do you see much of an interest in doing that sort of thing, actually enforcing the Constitution the way that the drafters and the ratifiers said it should be done back when they went through the process of drawing it up and then ratifying it? Do you see much? Are there any people there? I think there might be a couple in the caucus that before that, but what's your observation on that?
Yeah, honestly, Dennis, this is something, I mean, this particular issue and nullifying particular pieces of legislation, this is something that's never been brought up in our caucus this year. I'm willing to have those conversations, and certainly if there are things that I feel are an overreach and are unconstitutional, and we can get the 55 votes to do it, certainly I'm willing to back it.
Thank you.
Let me go, I promise, yeah, let's go here.
Yeah, I've got a question about education. 100 years ago, my father went to Cass Technical High School,
Okay,
and he learned to be an electrician. This is 100 years ago.
okay.
And then in the 60s, If you didn't want to fight the Viet Cong, you went to college. And that's where it kind of began, that everybody in the world's got to have a college education. My kids went to Oakland University about 20 years ago, probably not that long ago. But it was like $1,800 a semester. I have a business right near Oakland University. So it seems like when Obama started these federal loans for college, that these colleges have just raised their rates to the, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is because the federal government will pay it, and then these kids own it. So right today, to go to Oakland University, it's about $30,000 a year.
That's a bargain compared to the others.
So I have one of my employees is getting her wages garnished because she has a $36,000 student loan, which obviously she got nothing out of whatever that education was. When is the state going to wake up and stop telling these kids that, you know, they started with this crap that people that go to college make $1 million more in their lifetime, which is pure bull.
Well, let me say two things. One, and that's what we're doing again as we tackle and we address this skilled trade situation. But you're absolutely right, and I'm actually glad to hear somebody say that about the federal loans with the federal government and our universities, because I think very few people understand that. And think about this: what incentive, as long as the federal government continues to do this with loans, what incentive would there be for the universities to lower their tuition? There's not. I mean, think about this. If the federal government tomorrow created a program and we said we are going to give essentially unlimited loans for you to go to a car dealership and purchase a car.
They do that.
And we'll give you as much money as you want, but think about this. And there was no accountability. You just go, you get it. They're handing these loans out like Pez. I'm going to tell you right now, your $40,000 Buick within a few years would be $150,000 off the lot. Your $100,000 Mercedes would go to $500,000 or $600,000. So until the federal government says no, we are going to stop this nonsense, you're not going to get tuition under control. It's simply not going to happen. You're right.
How can we bring back technical high schools, though? I mean, these kids are graduating from school with no skills. They can barely read.
So the question was in terms of bringing back technical high schools. Just a couple thoughts, a couple ideas. One, certainly we need more flexibility within the merit curriculum. You take, for instance, I got my minor in Spanish at the University of Michigan, okay? I'm here to tell you right now, if I were to go to Mexico or if I were to go to a Spanish-speaking country right now, I could get around if I had to, but to stand there and give a speech, there is no way I could do that, and that was after hours upon hours upon hours of study, okay? Right now we've got a situation where we're mandating all of our children, I believe right now they've got to take 2 years of a foreign language. I'm going to tell you right now, 2 years of a foreign language in a high school, when they get out, they're never going to be able to use that language, okay? So why in the world are we having them use all this time learning 2 years of a foreign language if they know they're not going to use it and they want to learn to be an electrician, a mechanic, or what have you? Secondly, I would say this. I think at this point it would be cost prohibitive to force or even to have every single high school put in a metal shop, a wood shop, mechanic shop, you name it. That would be very, very expensive. I think we've got to find a way to better pair up with our community colleges. And if we can find ways for them, to create some of these opportunities and these kids can dual enroll and they can go to these schools and they can learn that trade, I think it's something we need to have a conversation about.
The ISDs are wasting the money that's supposed to be spent on this, on all kinds of administration costs every day of the week. They've got 100 administrators for 2 workers, and all this money is supposed to go to technical programs and they waste it. We need to do something about those ISDs. We don't need to vote those in there.
Well, I'm wide open to any suggestions you may have on this issue.
On the radio, 760 has run this commercial 20 times. IBEW, the electrical union, is offering internships which are paid. They say over 5 years you'll make $225,000 a year, and they can't get people to go. The brick and masonry union, which shut down their intern program, bricklayers make a bundle of money. No one would apply, and a few people that would get in. Now they don't because it's all non-union. But when it was there, people would go there, they'd spend 2 weeks in it and say, ugh, this is hard work, and they're out.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Those technical jobs are hard, and the kids are soft. That's the reality. And 2 generations ago, they were not.
I feel like an after question, how can you afford, you can't afford to have everything an auto shop, to learn to like repair cars at a dealer in every high school.
That's what he just
No,
said.
that's the point that I was, no, Deb, that was the
That's
point I was
what I said.
making. No, that's the point I was
Cost
making. I said,
prohibitive.
I don't think it would, I think it'd be cost prohibitive to
could
put
have a
one of those in every
magnet
high school. So
Oh,
what I
thought you
said is,
said you
could have a
no,
magnet.
So let me clear that. So again, you know, whether it's partnering with, you know, our community colleges or partnering with whomever, I think what you need to do is you need to create, because even if you could put one in every high school, which I don't, you know, it's not going to be cost effective to do that, you're not going to have enough children that, or enough kids that would actually want to do that.
And only if
Yes.
it would be an elective.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to turn into the German system that BC, the liberals and the progressives in this country
Right.
are wanting us to.
So my point is if you could create some, again, and maybe it's not a community college, maybe it's something else, but if you could create some type of more, centralized, partner private, or private public partnership, something like that, so these kids can dual enroll.
Mr. Speaker, let's call on Dave Lanier. Dave's been over there.
Okay,
I was in.
Excuse me.
Okay, so you have a multi-page book, probably 150 pages, Deb. If you want it, I'll guarantee you, tell me after the meeting. This book lists every single trade in the Tri-County area up to Flint. It tells how much it pays, where you can get the training for it, whether it's Open Community or Henry Ford or up in Flint, whatever that thing is called, University of Michigan. No. It's Kettering or whatever. It lists every, and you can have it, and we give it to every single school and every counselor, and I've got 2 on my desk. So it gives kids an opportunity to do those things, and that's published by Oakland County
Right,
Report.
but it's obviously that it's not connected. Somebody doesn't want to do what the kids don't want to work. That's
Can't
the
make that
problem.
general.
It's not true.
Dave Lanier has a great question coming up. I know it.
Where am I apologize, go ahead.
Learning responsibility.
Who, Dennis, you tell, who am I, which one?
Dave,
Sorry.
you got the nice
Okay.
Yes.
There's a bill in the State Energy Committee now,
Okay.
and it's to give the utility customers a choice between a digital meter, which is radiates and it's a privacy issue, and it also will generate a lot of money for power companies because of the data that it will collect, and the old analog meter, which measured the power that comes into our homes for billing purposes only. Anyway, the bill is basically to give the customer a choice. And we're getting near to the point where it may be voted out of committee. My question is, if it gets voted out of committee, it comes to you, would you allow it to go forward for a vote?
Oh, absolutely. I know Representative Glenn has been working on this very diligently. If he gets this out of committee, absolutely, we will caucus on it and we will go from there. I mean, at the end of the day, this is something we're going to want to get done. So we will caucus on it and, you know, do everything we can to get the 55 votes to get it out.
Great, thank you.
Just a quick add on to that. So if it does pass and we do get to choose to go back to our analogs, whose responsibility is it going to be to pay for that transition back because we were forced to have the digital put in? That is a big concern.
That's a good question. I will ask Rep. Glenn if that is addressed in the bill. That I don't know. Okay. Yep.
Over here, 2 questions. One, how does E-Verify stand in the state of Michigan, number 1? And number 2, and college, University of Michigan, Michigan State, what do we do to allow, how do I know this, well-qualified Michigan residents, who are students, to get into our state colleges?
Right. How do we, I'm sorry, ask that.
How do we allow well-qualified state of Michigan students that are well-qualified are being turned down at University of Michigan, are being turned down at Michigan State? And we're a state, they're state schools. If they're private schools, it doesn't matter.
Right,
If
I
you look at
agree.
some of the West Coast schools, University of Washington, I don't know what it is, 95% are from in-state or from western states. And what are we doing about those 2 issues?
Yeah. one on your first, I'm sorry, Hugh, what was the
E-Verify.
first? Yeah, E-Verify. What is the current status? That I don't know. I know Jim Runstad, this has been one of his pet projects. I know this is something he's working on. I can follow up with him. I don't know what the status is in terms of whether or not he's bringing it for a hearing anytime soon. I can't give you the status on this. Secondly, in regards to ensuring that universities take well-qualified Michiganders, I believe what you'd have to do, and it would require completely reforming the whole system. Instead of every year when you appropriate the $2 billion saying, and my numbers are going to be a little off here, you know, University of Michigan, you get $380 million, and MSU, you get $260, and Central, you get $130. If you could find a way, and it would take a lot of work to put this in place, but if you could find a way so that the university spending actually follows the student versus just giving the university a lump sum, I think you could really address that problem, because if that money was actually following the student, if they knew, wait a minute, my appropriation is going to be contingent on, you know, how many state of Michigan citizens I actually bring into my university versus I'm going to get
That's in Washington.
the appropriation either way, I think that's the direction you'd have to head. Now again, that would be a very tall, monumental task. It would take a lot of thought in terms of making certain that we do it right.
Well, step
but I
one is
think
to
that's-
separate out the
that's
research
direction we
dollars.
have to head.
All right. Tom, I want to thank you very much. We welcome you
Thank
to
you.
the Birmingham Bloomfield Republican Club. You were given a proper BVRC initiation.
I love it.
We have a lot of great questions, and the people there, a lot of different issues that come up. So
Thank you. Well, and tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, Friday, I'll have my coffee hours, and if you guys think this is, you guys think this was bad, wait till you see some of the folks that will show up monthly to give me heck. So that's okay.
well, that's encouraging.